once we're finished. So if you miss anything, it will be up on our YouTube channel shortly after. So just as an introduction, my name is Anna Panay. I am one of the brand ambassadors for LMF Network. I've been working with the founder Sonia and the rest of the team for 4 months now. So I started in January, and I've primarily been looking after the LinkedIn strategy and also helping to build new partnerships. I'm currently transitioning careers, so my experience has been coming from like a finance background. So I worked at JP Morgan for 5 years, went through the internship program, the graduate program, and then moved teams a couple of times within the business before I left. And now I'm looking to move into more of a startup environment. So yeah, that's kind of my background. And just FYI, if you haven't really joined any of the LMF network stuff before, we are a CIC dedicated to upskill underrepresented individuals and also provide a platform for everyone to learn. In April alone, we upskilled over 760 people across 21 webinars and also some Instagram lives, and we're just continuing to do that. So our mission, our goal is really just to help as many people as possible. So, if you find these sessions useful, or if there's things that you feel like we haven't covered and you want more things, please reach out to us and we'll happily put on a session for you. So everything we do is for you. So we just want to make sure that we're providing all the tools necessary for that to happen. And just a couple of house rules. So if you're not speaking, please put yourself on mute. What the format of the session today is, I'm going to go through my presentation and then we'll have a Q&A at the end. So, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just put them in the chat functionality and then I'll go through them at the end. Okay. Sorry, I'm just sharing my screen. Okay, so session for today's interview prep. Some of you might have joined some of the previous sessions and we're kind of covering a different topic every week. So yeah, like I said, if there's anything else that you want covered, please just let me know at the end of this conversation and we'll happily put it on for you. So the topics for discussion today, we're looking at where you can begin with your interview preparation, because I know it's quite like a daunting thing in general, and anticipating the types of questions that will come up, techniques for practicing, what to ask the interviewer, and what to look for in an interview. And I've also mentioned some resources at the end as well. So where to begin? This is, I guess, one of the key things in terms of, doing some interview preparation. And it's, something that might be daunting if you've never really done it before, if you're applying for, a bigger company or somewhere that you've never really, experienced working before, a new industry. So there's a couple, I guess, ground rules that you should kind of cover regardless of what industry you're looking at. It's really important to research the company and the products that they offer. So, have a look at their culture, their values, what the press is saying about them. In terms of products, are you working for a design company? What kind of things do they, what kind of clients do they own? If you're going for like a more technical role or something more tech focused, do they have products that you can download on your phone and have a look through and see how they work? And just really start piecing together, who the company is that you're applying for, and I guess like why you're targeting them. The second thing is to research the company and the industry and the competitors. So, at the moment you're looking at, say for example, Monzo. Who are their competitors? Is it Starling? Is it some smaller banks? Just have a look and see what differentiates this company compared to the other industries, and also will kind of give you a sense of why you're applying for that company. What makes this stand out compared to somewhere else. And the next thing to also look at is, how does your experience and accomplishments relate to that position that you're applying for? When you're applying for a job, you've got all the lists of the list of key skills and competencies, and you need to match them up with everything that you've kind of got from your own experience and that you've provided in your CV and cover letter. So really try and think about, when you're preparing for an interview, if someone's going to ask me all these questions, what kind of things can I provide to that interviewer to make sure that they pick me over someone else? And also, this might not always be possible, but especially in smaller companies, you tend to know who the person is that's interviewing you. Normally for like larger corporate companies, you don't really tend to find out who that is. You just get given a time slot, and then they'll introduce themselves on the actual call or conversation. But for anything smaller, you'll kind of get information beforehand. So it'd be a really good idea to kind of research that particular person, kind of see what history they've had, and you can also kind of ask them questions around that in the interview as well. Stuff like, you used to work at XYZ company. Why have you started working for this company? What was the reason why you moved? And it will kind of give you a better sense of, why people are also working for the company that you're applying for. And also, another thing to add is also, what do you want to find out from the company? So, if you're going into an interview, what do you want to find out from them? Are there things that you can't really find out on the internet that you want to know more about, that you kind of ask in a more of a private and informal setting? So, moving on from that, one of the best things to do next, once you've done your initial research and groundwork, is anticipating the kind of questions that are going to come up. Now, I've broken this down into 4 kind of key areas, and this is going to be dependent on industries as well. So, some if you're going for a more technical focus role, your questions are probably going to be more technical. If you're going for more of like an art role or something around design, it might be a bit more interactive. It also depends on the size of the company. So, if you're applying for a big corporate, it's going to be very structured. You're going to have loads of different tasks. Whereas, if you're in more of a startup environment, it could be a completely different experience. You could end up just having like a really informal, casual chat with someone. So, that part of the groundwork that you've done is trying to figure out what the company is and what kind of vibe they have, and really kind of think about, what kind of questions they would ask. So there's four sections. So you've got background and skills. So these are things like, the experience that you've had and all the key competencies that you can kind of align that you have compared to, what the company is looking for. They could ask you things such as how you can contribute to this company, why are you interested in working for them, and also, asking for specific examples for key skills that they're looking for as well. So it's really important to have everything, understanding, who you are and why they would want to pick you, and having key accomplishments and numbers and figures in your back pocket, so that, if any of these questions come up, you can kind of give examples and show evidence that you are the right person for them to pick because you've done X, Y, Z. The next thing is goals and objectives. So it's going to be things like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Can you see yourself in a leadership position? What kind of leader do you think you are? Stuff like that, where it's focused around you. And the thing is, it's not something where you always need to say, I know what I'm going to be doing in 5 years, because some people really don't. And I've definitely answered questions where I say, I don't know what I want to be doing specifically, but I know I want to be learning X, Y, Z. So if you're someone who doesn't really have like a long-term goal, that's okay. If you can kind of demonstrate that, you're looking to work for somewhere long-term, or you're looking to gain X, Y, Z, then that's a good enough answer as well. So just make sure that, depending on what your goals are, to have answers for those. And then the next thing is technical skills. So this is going to be very much aligned to the industry that you're going into. So you really need to think about, if you're going for a developer role, are they going to ask you questions around development, or the kind of the software and coding language that you're going to be using? If you're going for a design company, they might ask you about the kind of companies that they collaborate with. They might ask you things that's happening in the industry at the moment, any sort of market trends. So really just be mindful and think about, once you've done your research, what kind of things that could come up that you could prepare yourself for. And it could also be questions, that kind of questions around your behavior as well. So they could give you a made up scenario. So you need to complete this particular task. How would you go about doing it? And so they can kind of ask you stuff like that on the spot, and you just really need to think, okay, if I was doing this, how would I break down this task, and just kind of evaluate it and show it to the person how you kind of think, because a lot of the time they're not only looking for your skills, but they're looking at your soft skills as well, and how you would fit into their business. And lastly, there's strengths and weaknesses. So it could be something like, describe a time where you've made a mistake, describe your biggest successes, what are your biggest weaknesses. Now, a lot of people kind of, I guess, like I've spoken with people and they struggle with this because they're like, oh, I don't really want to show that I've got any weaknesses. Everyone knows that you can make mistakes. It's just how you kind of overcome them that they're looking for. So it's okay that you've made a mistake in the past and that you can admit it, but you need to show, I did X, Y, Z, this happened, this caused this problem, but I, escalated it to my manager, or I spoke to X, Y, Z, and we turned around the issue, communicating it to everyone, and as a result, everything was fine, and we improved our processes because of it. So kind of see how you've turned something negative and turn it on its head to show that you kind of overcame it, and you have the skills to kind of problem solve and push forward of something that might have been wrong, but you turned it into a positive. And that will just vary between industries. So regardless of what you're doing or what kind of industry you're looking at, everyone will be making mistakes. So think about challenging that and saying, this happened, but as a result of this also happened. So yeah, just try and shape everything in like a positive light if possible. Okay, so techniques for practicing. So in the previous slide, you've identified the types of questions that have come up. And off the back of this, you need to kind of put a plan in place in order to kind of practice what you're doing. So one of the things that I find really useful, and I recommend recommend it with a lot of people, is bringing out the job description that you've done, and also your, I guess, CV and cover letter, and with the research that you've done on the company, put together like a table, or whether it's like a Word document or even just handwritten, using the STAR method or some other method where you can kind of identify the key skills that you've got and aligning them with accomplishments that you've made. So situation, task, action, result. So if someone asks you, are you a good communicator? If you say yeah, you can't just say yes. You need to say how. Like have I worked on a project. I communicated with people across different business areas. I aligned everyone, and as a result, we pushed out a project 2 weeks before it actually needed to be released, and it drove XYZ revenue for the business. So stuff like that, where you can kind of assign the key skills that you've learned to like an end result, will work in your favor. So if you kind of bring out all the key skills that they're looking for and figure out situations, or even voluntary work, things that you've done in your past and in your experience, where you can kind of tie back to that skill and provide a result for it, that will really benefit in your favor. And it's really good to when you're actually going into an interview, you can take paper in with you and stuff, and you can take your notepad. And if you're someone who might struggle to remember things, could you not note down a couple of words or key points in like really short, succinct words, kind of just highlighting a couple of things that you really want to mention, just to prompt your memory. If you're someone who even if they practice, they just need like an extra prompt. Another thing to do, which is really helpful, is to record yourself. So this is might be a bit daunting, but it's actually really helpful. When you record yourself, you can kind of notice that the tone of voice you have, also the speed of how you're speaking, and the type of language that you use. There's a lot of times where people will repeat things or say specific words over and over again when they're nervous. They might speak really fast. Also, the types of words that you're using, you might not be, I guess, explaining your point as well as it could be, or kind of showing yourself off as much as you can. So it's a really good way to kind of have the list of questions that you think that the interviewer will ask, and have answers for them. So using this table or set of questions and answers that you've put together, just kind of run through it and see how you're sounding back to yourself, because you might be thinking that you're talking slowly, but in actual fact you could be speaking really fast. And especially at a time where everything is online, it's really important that you, I guess, like have a good online presence, and show that you're not nervous, or you are really confident, because even though it's through a screen, people will kind of notice if you're speaking really fast, or fiddling or stuff like that. So it's a really good way to figure out how you sound to other people. The next thing to do is to practice with someone you feel comfortable with. So with these list of questions that you've put together, prepare the list of questions and get them to ask you. And they could potentially throw in some curveballs as well, but what it will do is you can kind of have a conversation with them, and they might bring up questions that you might not have thought about, and it will just kind of make you feel more comfortable about it being asked by someone who you don't know. So just really kind of trust a few people, and kind of get their feedback, and see how they felt that you did, and anything that you can improve on, and whether there's any key points that you actually missed out on that you could reiterate or try again. And try this with a couple of different people, because everyone will have a different perspective, and it will really just solidify your technique when you're interviewing. And another thing, just finally, is practicing in the mirror, in front of a mirror. I know this might sound a bit weird, but whilst everything is online, you kind of want to see how you're, I guess, like while you're interviewing, what you're doing. Are you kind of doing any hand movements? Are you staring at the screen? Are you staring at the ceiling, outside of a window? Make sure that while you're having a talk with someone, that you're remaining focused, you're keeping your attention on them as well, and just kind of see if you're hunched over. Just look at your body language, because people are still going to notice that in an interview. And as I've said, if anyone does have any questions, please post them in the chat, and we'll take it from there afterwards. So another thing to think about is not only what the interviewer is going to ask you, but also what you can ask the interviewer. Is a really important part of the whole interview process, because the interview is also going to be looking at how much you know about the company. Are you someone who is invested in finding out more? So questions could be stuff that you haven't really found online. So if it's something like it's been downloaded by X number of people, it's the types of agencies that they have had. Are there things that you can't immediately go into Google and find out that you really want to know? Those are the kind of questions that you need to be thinking about, or things that you're interested in that you should be asking an interviewer, because it will show that you're being proactive and really want to know more about them. Ask the interviewer about their own experiences as well. People have so many different changes in their careers, and they've come up in different ways. So really try and find out, where they've come from, and also why they've chosen this particular company to work for now, because it will give you a good sense of the culture and the company's values, and also why people are staying there. And it will also make you aware of whether you do actually want to work in that place or not. Now, another thing to do is looking at the challenges in the role. So ask people, it's not a bad thing to ask. Find out, what are the biggest challenges if you were to step foot in this role that you would face on a day-to-day basis in general, things that, you would need to overcome or potentially fix. And that's a really good thing to know, because you could kind of, if you do get hired, you can come in and shed a different light on that kind of the issues that they're having, and might be able to fix it for them. So it's really good just to understand, where you stand, and also make sure that the air is kind of clear when you're going into something new. You also need to you also want to find out what kind of direction the business or the role is heading into. So, although you might be applying for a role to do a particular thing, in a year they might completely change their business strategy and might want to do something else. So really just try and make sure that you're signing up for what you think the role is, rather than something that they might have posted online, but the actual job description might be very different to what they're actually looking for, because that happens quite a lot. And you might be signing up to something that you think is actually different to what you actually wanted to be doing. So the next thing is also looking at day-to-day tasks, what are you going to be doing outside of the general key skills and responsibilities that have been listed in that job description? Are there any additional things that you'll be doing that haven't been listed? Any kind of new technologies that you're going to need to be using, or internal communications that you should be aware of, that you could potentially, look at and find out more information if you've never used them before. Also asking stuff around culture, values. Sometimes this isn't always listed online, and it's just good to, get people's experiences of, why they're working there, and also other stuff like other activities. So are they a social bunch? Do they kind of tend to go out together outside of work? What's the culture like in between all the different teams? Is it very friendly? Are they tight knit? The people that you're going to work with, are they in completely different locations? Will you have anyone in the same office as you? Stuff like that, which could potentially impact whether you actually want to work for a company or not. It's really important to ask, because it could completely change your mind on the company that you're applying for. Okay, so these are like the 4 things that are kind of, I guess, but once you're actually in the interview, these are the kind of 4 things that you really need to be looking out for. So the first one is, can I do the job? And this is going to be something that you need to think about. You've applied for it, you think you can. The interviewer is also going to be thinking about the same thing. So can you do the job? Have you kind of explained all the skills that you have and why you should be the one that they pick over someone else? The next question is, can I do the job at this company? So I could do project management at one company, but it could be completely different at this company. So just really work out whether the culture and the values align with what you're looking for and your expectations. The next thing is, can I do the job with these people? So, once again, what kind of people are you going to be working for? Do you think you're going to be getting on with them? Do you think there's going to be any clashes? Are your core values like different to how they work? Do you think that there's going to be any problems, or do you think it's going to be really smooth sailing? And also, can you do the job for what they're offering? So if you're going into a role and you've done your research and you know that the market standard is a lot higher than what they're offering, is it really worth applying to this company where you could potentially be getting a bit more somewhere else? It depends what your interests are. Do you want to work for a particular company because it's that company, or a particular industry, or are you kind of looking more for the monetary benefits? So it really goes back to who you are and what you're looking for, and that could potentially affect all the results to these questions. And just lastly, before we go into the Q&A, I've listed a couple of resources that I find really useful to get information about companies and people and stuff like that. The first one is LinkedIn. So whether you want to do some research on a particular company, have a look at their news feed, have a look at particular people that work there, see if you have any first or second connections. It's a really good resource, and it can also give you information on how good you are compared to other people that have applied for a job. If you've applied for it through LinkedIn, it can also give you average salaries as well, and other insights depending on if you're a free or a premium user. The next one is Glassdoor. I find this a really valuable tool. It doesn't also only give you salary insights, but it also gives you, sometimes dependent on the company, but reviews by other employees, and also from other interviews prior. So if you're going into a company, some people might leave reviews on saying, this was a terrible interview, don't go here. It could be, this was the best interview I've ever had, there were XYZ stages, I had a really good experience, but I didn't get an offer. So it can kind of give you a good indication of the kind of company that you're looking at. And not all companies are on Glassdoor, so you just need to kind of see if it's there. Another thing to look at is finding information on industry competitors. There are some good companies, and I've listed two of them, sorry. One of them being Owler and another one being Craftco. So this is a really good way to have a look and see if you're not aware who the company's competitors are, what kind of funding they've had, any kind of high-level news. This will be a good place to find out all information in one. And it's really helpful if you want to kind of bring that up in conversation with your interviewer. Escape the City is another good resource. If you haven't heard of it, it not only shows you job opportunities, but it also lists thousands of companies and gives them an overall what they call escape the city score based on their impact, their mission, the effects on the planet, the people, what if they're within innovation, if they're a B Corp. I think I've listed innovation twice. My apologies, but yeah, it's a really good way to kind of see who you're working for and whether it's a company a company that you want to work for. Really good resource. I've used it before and it's really helpful. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. Not all companies are on there, but a lot of smaller or startup companies, a lot of bigger companies are listed on there. So it could potentially help you sway your decision on certain things. And another one is social media channels. So outside of LinkedIn, is the company posting on Twitter? Are they posting on Instagram? Are they posting anything on their blog, on their website? Just really try and find all these different avenues of information to gain those resources so that when you go into your interview, you're fully prepared for any kind of questions that can come at you. Because that's like the main thing. Even if you might not have an answer to anything, if you keep level-headed and think about it, you're going to be much better prepped than someone who might have all the answers but is I guess like really shy or not very good at interviewing. Because if you can't come across confident and well, that could potentially impact your performance on your interview. Okay, so that is the end of my presentation, and that will be available after the end of the session if anyone's interested. I'm just going to start going through the questions that we have. Okay, so I can see there's I hope everyone can actually see the slides. I can see that there's that you can't see the presentation. So I'll definitely share them after. Apologies. Could some people see them, or is it everyone that couldn't? I will be sharing them after, but I hope that I could, at least give you the knowledge. And I'll share them after 100%. Don't worry about it. I'll send them after this meeting just so you have a copy. But has anyone got any particular questions on things that I've covered, or also, any tools or any additional questions that you might have, and we can go through them. And please just remember, no question is a silly question. This is very much an open forum, an open chat. So please ask away, and I'm happy to answer. So, how would you respond to questions about career gaps? Great question. So this is, obviously depending on what you've done. If I use myself as an example, I haven't been working since August. I've been trying to transition careers, and so I took some time off to go traveling, and I also have been working with LMF Network to gain skills, and also doing some online courses. So really just think about what you've done over this time, and just try and show, although you might have just had a break, and you can just upfront say I've been working for XYZ, or I'm looking at doing a particular field and I really wanted some time before I got into that industry, and so I decided to take some time for myself to figure myself out, learn certain things before I started working. Because it's okay, loads of people take breaks, and people understand that. It's just how you come across. And also, if you have started working, you've had a break, just kind of be honest. Don't lie, because there's nothing worse than having a lie and then it comes back to bite you. So just really be upfront and show, even if you did have some time off and you're not actually being paid to work, what else are you doing on top of that? And if the answer is that you don't actually have anything, are there any things that you could then do to try and upskill yourself or learn whilst you're not working? a lot of experience is good experience. So just think about how that kind of stuff could benefit you, even though it's not officially work. I hope that answered your question. Okay, so Chandni, I hope I said that right. Apologies if not. You mentioned personal values. Do you have any advice on how we can identify our value proposition? I actually went through this in one of our previous talks. One of the best ways to do this is uh, you really need to kind of take a step back and look at yourself and, I guess like internally and then kind of think who you are and what you're, um, I guess, like looking for. Um, it could be stuff like what kind of what kind of things am I personally interested in? Do I like music? Do I like helping the environment? Am I someone who's like really creative? Um, do you want to work somewhere where it's like a really chilled vibe? Do you want to work somewhere that's really corporate? And kind of start piecing together, what kind of things define you, and also what kind of things will influence you in making a decision about a job. And once you kind of have an idea of, you write down all these things of, oh, I've done X, Y, Z. I think I'm really good at this. I think I'm really good at this. It's really good to take that question and ask people who know you really well. So ask people that you've worked with, ask your friends, your family, and just say, if you could list 3 to 5 things that define me as a person, what are they? And hopefully there should be alignment between what you've written down and what they've written down, because people are very perceptive to things and they might pick up on stuff that you might not know about, and it might really help to give you clarity on who you really are. I think that's really important. Don't just think about yourself, try and get other people's opinions as well. And it could be anything. It doesn't need to be particular work experience. Are there voluntary experiences that you've done that you've really enjoyed? Are there particular social groups that you've done that you've really enjoyed being a part of? Did you do improv but you really like speaking? Are you an actual leader or speaker? And just try and piece everything together, and that's like a really good way to I guess like figure out what your value proposition is, at least from my point of view. Ah, great, I answered it correctly. Okay, next question. Another name that I hope I didn't get wrong, but Mireya. Um, how can you compensate for not being in a target university? So when you mean target university, I'm assuming you mean like a red brick or a high or somewhere higher on a rank. I actually, it might have been more important back in the day, but I actually think that where you've gone to university is less important now than when it was previously. Obviously, some companies might still think, oh, someone's come from Oxbridge or they've gone to Harvard and stuff, and they might actually, pick people based on that kind of stuff. But a lot of companies nowadays are actually looking more for, who people are as a person, and also the kind of soft skills that they have in addition to the, where they've studied and what degree they've got. I know people who have, gone for finance roles and they used to study geography. It's really about how you can translate what you've learned and what you've done throughout your life into that particular job that you're doing. So I really wouldn't worry about where you studied. Think about more, who you are, what you've done, and if a company picked you, why would you be the best? If the company had like a menu of people to pick from, why you would be the best person on that menu to pick. So really don't sell yourself short, and just really think about, what you can offer and where you bring benefit, because, regardless of whether, you study at Birmingham or City or Loughborough or Southampton, a lot of the courses are going to be very similar. It's just a case of, how you can apply the knowledge and all the skills that you've learned. That's what I would say. So really don't worry about that. Okay. Maggie's asking, are there any structure to answering motivational questions like why consultancy? I always find it tricky to spell out my career motivation. I guess for that, and it comes with like structuring anything really, you you really need to think, why have you picked that industry? And if you can't actually figure out a reason why, maybe that might also not be, it might be something that you shouldn't be applying for. Uh, as weird as that sounds, if you're applying for a company or particular field and you can't actually give reasons as to why you want to work in that particular field or company, then it might not be the right place for you. But really, just think about, I guess, like as a consultant in particular, not that I've ever been one myself, but I know a lot of people who have been. Are you motivated by the idea that you get to work on loads of different projects? Are you motivated that it can be across different industries? It's something that's like really fast paced and it's always changing, and you work in agile ways, stuff like that. Um, Really pick out even if you look at job descriptions or you look at, what a consultant does in general, what are the things that you've picked out that you're like, oh, actually, I really like the sound of that, and use that as the basis to structure, what motivates you. And if you're someone who really struggles to kind of lay it out, kind of do what I did and take something into an interview with like bullet points or keywords that you can kind of link back to, and just kind of have that with you to hand if you think you might struggle, because it's really just about showing that enthusiasm and passion for something. And regardless of you say one word or you give them a whole essay, as long as that enthusiasm is there and you're showing why, then it should come across. And that's not just for looking at consulting stuff, it's just as a whole. If you're really interested by something, it will come across by the way you're speaking naturally. Has anyone got any questions? Any more questions? Like I said, please don't feel shy. Like no question is a silly question. Really just use this time to kind of ask things that you might not have ever really asked before. So how can you highlight soft skills in a CV or LinkedIn? Okay, so um, those can really shine through in like your professional profile. So at the top section, you should kind of really have like a really short paragraph on who you are, the kind of experiences that you've had, and like the key skills that you want to highlight throughout that you're going to kind of take through in your CV. So whether it's things like uh, you're an excellent communicator, whether it's any other type of soft skill, are there any experiences that you've had to kind of show those soft skills and any sort of results that you've had? Because social skills are so important, and they're becoming ever more important in any type of work. People are looking more at the kind of soft skills that you have, rather than I went to XYZ university and stuff like that. Are you someone who is really creative? How are you creative? Have you kind of shown a portfolio that you have of the kind of things that you've built up? Have you got a social media channel that you can share? If you're someone who's really good in teamwork, what past experience have you got that you can kind of show? Oh, I did this. I worked on a project in Africa doing XYZ. You know, are there any things, whether it's actual work experience or volunteer experience, that you can kind of show that those soft skills and kind of make them shine? LinkedIn is good because it's kind of like a companion to your CV, and you can almost show more information and have examples. So, if you've learned a particular skill, or you've done a particular project, make sure that you publish that on LinkedIn. Or if it's something that's happened previously, do you have can you post that in the skills section? Can you also attach anything that's related to it? So if you have any photos or any decks that you've put together that you can share along with that experience to show what you've done. Because soft skills are so important. They're almost as important as the actual key skills that you need for the job. So when you're writing them up in your CV and your cover letter as well, just make sure that you're picking out those key words and of those soft skills and kind of putting them throughout your CV, and just explain how you've achieved things with those soft skills. I hope that answered your question. Another name that I hope I don't get wrong, Amalia or Amelia. What is the number one question to ask at the end of an interview? Good question. I actually don't think there is a golden rule for asking, questions at the end of an interview. It's really depending on the type of vibe. Is it like a really chilled environment? Are you going into more of a corporate, setting? Typically, at the end of an interview, it will probably be questions that you've asked them. So, around what I mentioned previously, the kind of culture that you're looking into, what your day-to-day roles, and naturally, by the end of a conversation, the interviewer will pick up on that, and they'll kind of close it off. And what normally happens is, they'll kind of say a couple of, maybe lighthearted things, or just be like, "Oh, this interview is now ending. We'll get back to you in XYZ days." So I wouldn't really say there is any like top question. You really just have to judge a room and see, what is actually happening at the moment. Can you have like a light-hearted moment? Can you make a joke? Can you just say, thank you very much for your time. I look forward to hearing from you, stuff like that. So really just, see what's happening and assess it from there. There's not really anything in particular that you can say or do, because you kind of should have covered everything that you wanted to in the interview anyway. So, how to act confident at the interview if I'm not by nature. So I guess having like an online interview almost can make this easier, because you're kind of sitting in your own comfortable space. And if you're someone who isn't really confident, maybe something in person might be a bit more difficult. This is where, practicing with people and recording yourself and watching yourself in the mirror, because you'll pick up on things that you might not have noticed. You'll pick up on the language that you've used. You'll pick up on the tone of language that you're using, how fast you're speaking. Just really kind of, it's really good to take a step back. And if you know that you're someone that's nervous, like I get nervous quite a lot. I've never really done public speaking before I started doing these webinars. And it's just really about practice. So the more that you can practice and feel comfortable with what you're saying, the more you'll kind of be comfortable in those situations. And if you're someone who's like really fidgety or who gets, nervous, can you, is there something that you can take, like an anchor or something, or like a pen or something that you can kind of control yourself a bit more, if you are fidgeting and you need to kind of move your hands or something. But really just, if you're someone who also gets nervous, like breathing is so important in an interview, as weird as that sounds. If you, forget to breathe, or, you start speaking really fast, you end up getting out of breath more, and you start panicking, and all this kind of stuff like overwhelms you, and then you can kind of panic more, and it just kind of, snowballs into something that's a lot worse. So just really almost kind of going into an interview, like if you can really relax, like meditate before, if you can. It's a really good way to just kind of clear your mind and get yourself ready. And just really, using the practice that you've done, try and, get yourself into a place where you're, trying to talk as slow and as calm as possible. If you've forgotten something, or you want to remind your memory, can you just, pause, have some water, give yourself 5-10 seconds just to recollect yourself, and then carry on. You don't need to be talking constantly for the whole interview. You can have breaks. So just, use that time to take a couple of deep breaths and then carry on. And just kind of, if you are working from home and you're doing it, your top half can be very formal, but can you be wearing something comfortable just to kind of make yourself feel a bit more at home while you're doing an interview? It could really make a difference. Obviously, if this is face to face, don't do that. But anywhere where you can kind of relax yourself a bit more beforehand should hopefully help with that confidence as well. And it will just come with time. The more interviews that you do, you'll kind of pick up on the types of questions that get asked, and you'll be more confident answering them going forward. I hope that answered your question. Okay, great. Has anyone got any more? Whilst you're thinking about them, just as something that I would really appreciate, I've just posted a link in the chat. It's a link to our webinar feedback form. Would really appreciate if you can just take a minute just to fill it in. It's really quick. I just want your feedback on what went well, what didn't go well, such as the presentation slides not working, which is unfortunate, and I didn't even notice. What could be improved? What other kinds of webinars are you looking for? Because it's really going to help us improve and bring information to you that you might not be able to get anywhere else on the internet. And we want to make sure that we keep this informal session going. So just would really appreciate any feedback you have. That'd be great. Any final questions? And just a note, so I'll just post the socials again. So if you don't want to, ask in this particular chat, please feel free to reach out to me directly. That's my social channel. So just connect with me on LinkedIn. Reach out to me and just ask me anything. And if you want to set up like a call next week or whenever to go through anything in more detail, just let me know, and I'm happy to spend some time with you. And also, please do follow LMF Network on either Instagram or LinkedIn. We post a lot of information about our upcoming webinars and workshops, and we also have a lot of information about the community and the kind of things that are coming up, and also provide some sharing some information that's like really useful for your career or for your own personal soft skills, stuff like that. Okay, I'll give it one more minute and then I will let you be free. But yeah, if like I said, please reach out to me if you need anything. Would really appreciate if you fill in that feedback form. That will be perfect. And yeah, just enjoy the rest of your day. Good luck with any interviews that you've got coming up. I really hope this has been a valuable session, and just let me know, directly through LinkedIn or through LMF Network if there's anything else that you want to come up, and we'll host it for you. So yeah, from LMF Network and myself, thank you for joining. Really appreciate you taking the time today, and hopefully see you at a future event. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.